following up a story still onto this trade, how people were complaining, mostly truck drivers, saying that they take a long period of time onto the Uganda-Kenya border, saying that how about they do the clearance before leaving the port. They just come across and go. And well, the more delays, trust me, we cannot fail to accept the fact that the more delays that when products are being held onto the border, the more delays or the more period they stay onto the border, trust me, business is not working well in Uganda, also maybe in other countries. And this has really affected, trust me, the government will not be able to generate enough revenue, and people will be complaining. So I think this is a good way to go, but we cannot fail to talk about the fact that as these people are looking for smarter border reforms, they should also mind about the policies. You know, I remember Uganda and Kenya, they were suggesting policies that are supposed to govern the East African community when it comes to trade, that at least we can do trade anywhere, anyhow. Though allow me pass this. I was reading a story yesterday about South Sudan. You know, we're supposed to pay a certain amount of money to get a visa to Southern Sudan.
Yes.
Just imagine that. Yet it's also among the East African community. Yes. I do not pay for a visa when I'm going to Kenya. I do not pay for a visa when I'm going to Tanzania, to Rwanda, to Burundi, you know, to Congo. I just use my national ID. So when I was reading this, well, I was like, at a certain point, I feel like these people do not even know why we should have the East African community, or the incense behind the East African community. But, you know, I remember on Tuesday you asked me, do these blocks really work? They do work, but just that, I guess, you know, we cannot be on the same page at a certain point.
Yes, we can.
Same applies to different heads of state. And, well, we've seen the president of Uganda. He has been advocating for the East African community, giving the incense and the importance of the East African community to the extent that he allowed all the East African countries to do trade within Uganda without policies that will affect them, because he believes that there is a bigger and a wider picture that okay, at a certain point I feel like he has that picture onto how the East African community should work and also be recognized. So at a certain point, these people, the other heads of state,
and the fact that, Regan, we do have a lot of people from different African countries, and they're enjoying the same, I mean, basic needs. I mean, they have the rights to work, they have the rights to everything in Uganda, however much maybe most of them are refugees. That only implies that the president of Uganda is actually advocating for, I mean, the East African community working together. It is so absurd, the fact that we have to pay for visas when you're going to South Sudan.
Just imagine.
Well, dear viewer, we would love you to understand this particular one. The East African community is saying that as trade between member countries continue to grow, border procedures also need to improve. In our science and technologies segment, we normally talk about the fact that technology has advanced, and at least each one of us needs to embrace it. And we love the fact that the East African community is embracing it, and we pray that they do embrace it in a effectively. Now, goods and people are taking longer than necessary, just like Regan has been saying, to cross borders because of paperwork, inspections, and different rules.
Let me ask you, when you went to Rwanda, how long did it take for you to cross the border at Gatuna? How long did the process? How long did it take?
It didn't take a lot of time, just that Rwanda has a lot, some particular rules they follow. Okay. I did pay for any visa. Maybe some of the basic rules that we had to follow. You can't cross Rwanda if you have any kavera in your bags, and they have effectively implemented that. If you have any kavera, you can't cross with it. You leave it in Uganda. You leave it. You can't cross the border with it. Okay. It was easy. It didn't even take a lot of time.
Okay. So it didn't take a lot of time, but me, I've had a couple of friends that have been saying this, that sometimes they experience delays when it comes to, you know, crossing the border points of Uganda and Kenya.
I think because I traveled in the night.
Well, maybe.
I've always traveled in the night.
maybe. But still, people have been giving out that point that sometimes they take so long to cross the border points because of the rules and maybe the policies. But we cannot fail to accept that each and every country has got rules and policies that govern it.
Yes.
So we have to follow and obey by their rules at a certain point. But when it comes to the East African community, I feel like it is more of the three countries, that is Uganda, Kenya, Tanzania, because they do more. Actually, they do more. I will not say that it's because maybe they are the co-founders of the East African community. I cannot say that, but they do more when it comes to at least making sure that policies and also strengthening the East African community exists. But well, at a certain point, beside being that we are talking about the East African community, I expected the head of the East African community at the moment to come out and address issues that were happening in South Africa. The xenophobic attacks, I expected him, because we saw Kenyans, we saw Ugandans were being evacuated, we saw Kenyans being evacuated as well. So at a certain point, I expected the head or the chairman of the East African community to come out and address the East African community on two issues that are happening or were happening in South Africa, and later on to see that at least they find a way for that better and to streamline, and also to strengthen ties between the East African community and the South African government. But well, we are able to see that the president of Uganda doing so on his behalf for the people of Uganda, and also for Uganda, because he felt at a certain point, in my opinion, that regardless of whatever that is happening, we still need each other as African. So do you believe that the president of Uganda is a Pan-African?
Yes, he is.
Why would you say so?
He is. He has. I remember he was having an interview with some of the European media people, and he was confidently questioning them. Why don't you let us? Advocate for our issues and not involving the white people and all that. And he has always confidently asked them these questions.
Okay, him being a Pan-African, at a certain point, do you feel like is he on the same agenda with those of with some of the heads of states when it comes to the East African community?
I don't think.
Why?
I don't think, because he has always come out. I remember, I love if I first talk about this interesting.
It's okay, you can talk about it.
There is a time, I think we were having Miss Uganda. He won, I think, Miss Uganda Africa. And she had to go and meet the president of Uganda, and she had, ladies have some hair. They played wigs and all.
She said that it is. Is it dead something?
Yes, and she asked her, you're supposed to have your natural hair and all that. I love the fact that he had to talk about that confidently and asking Miss Uganda, and she followed. I think she went and maybe had her natural hair. Okay,
so being that we're talking about trade and within the East African community, in your opinion, what's the way to go? Should we say that the smarter reforms are the way to go to say that at least trade keeps on moving on, or they should first come up with policies that really govern the East African community when it comes to trade, that we will not be able to see Ugandan products being denied entry in Kenya, Ugandan products being denied entry in Tanzania or Rwanda, because a few of the states that I've mentioned, we had issues when it comes to trade, months back or years back, because they could deny our products from accessing their country. So at a certain point, do you feel like they should first streamline the policies before coming up with a smart border reforms?
I actually think before they even implemented, they should actually first find out what is failing in the first place, before they get to implement it. Do these people know how to use maybe the biometric machines or any machines that are going to be implemented? Do these people, are they going to embrace it? You get my point? It doesn't make sense them implementing it, yet it's not gonna be effective in one way or the other. And I love the fact, I love us to talk about how is this in Uganda. Allow me to talk about Uganda. How is this even going to affect ordinary Ugandans. This is where you connect, you get to see that cheaper goods, because of transport costs, are going to reduce, and then we get to see that farmers can sell produce faster before it even spoils, because these people spend a lot of time on the borders. Businesses actually get to receive supplies on time. That in that way we are saving time. And then more trade creates more jobs, and then easier movements for people traveling with East Africa. Now, Uganda is centrally actually located and depends heavily on regional trade, and many goods and pass through border points like Malaba. I mentioned Busia. I also mentioned Mutukula and Katuna, and this makes efficient borders important for countries and then economy. We still have a lot more challenges that still exist, like just like I told you. The long queues of trucks, this is what we're trying to tackle. This is what the East African community is trying to tackle.
Do you know that because of the long queues of trucks, we saw truck drivers striking? But it came to the reason behind that. I think it happened a few months back when we saw Kenyan truck drivers striking, saying that they are tired of the delays onto the border points of Uganda and Kenya. So when you talk about the long queues, I think, in my opinion, I think they should come up with policies, because we might have the smarter border reforms, but then the policies could also affect and also lead to the long queues and to the border points of different countries within the East African community.
I was still actually talking about some of the challenges that these people are actually facing, and what the East African community is trying to tackle. I talked about corruption in the border process. That is very much common at the border. There is a lot of corruption.
Can I tell you something about corruption? I had a conversation with a certain old person.
Are you going to say it's everywhere?
No.
But it's everywhere.
It is everywhere. Then I asked him, do you feel like at a certain point we can, we can really fight corruption? He told me that yes, we can, but the problem is corruption starts with those that are big. So now, and I posed the question to him still, and I was like, so do you feel like we can really fight? And if we are to fight corruption, what's the way to go? What are some of the actions that we're supposed to do? And he told me, when it comes to institutions, fire from the head. That's a solution. And we've had issues concerning corruption. It came to URA and also people that are conducting activities on two border points, because we cannot fail to accept that besides the security or personnel that operate onto the border points, we also have the URA, being that we're talking about a story in a business perspective. So it is the work of the URA in hand with the government of Uganda and also with the East African Community Council, to see that at least when it comes to corruption, because people are being bribed to smuggle goods. And they mentioned this, that if at all they do the clearance a bit earlier on from wherever those goods are coming from, then they do the clearance or to the ports, they just come and close across the border. But then you cannot fail to talk about smuggling goods within, could be. So it is really a tricky, something very hard, but I believe when the member states sit together, come up with policies and also how they are supposed to be implemented, they will be able to cope up and find ways onto how they can, do it better when it comes to these smart reforms. Why are you smiling?
As I am smiling because as they are having these reforms, there is still slow internet systems at borders. And
but of late, we are not doing that bad when it comes to the internet. We saw in this financial year, internet is a bit cheaper.
We do hope.
The UCCs wants to arrest and also take those people that are providing internet illegally. They're supposed to go through the right channels to go.
And when are they implementing it?
Because they have been saying that for a certain period of time, so we don't really know.
And I think people are enjoying internet of.
But of late, internet is everywhere, and that's an improvement. When we were growing up, I don't know in your era, But when we were growing up, you know, man, we had to buy scratch cards to buy. I don't know. Have you ever seen a scratch card?
Yes, I did. Come on. And I remember they used to tell us you're going to get cancer.
You know, until when you buy the scratch cards, as you're scratching them.
We can actually fail to talk about the poor infrastructure as one of the challenges that these people do face at certain crossing points. I don't know what the East African community is thinking about that. We've really suffered with the infrastructure when it also comes to roads. In Uganda, we have a lot of potholes, and a lot of people have come out to say that some of the potholes can make you have a miscarriage.
You know, we cannot fail to talk about that because, trust me, due to the poor road connection, we've seen delays still when it comes to transportation of these goods. That's why I told you that this is the governments of within the East African community, and they really have to come up with policies because they have to look onto other road connection. Of late, we've seen the construction of the standard gauge railway, and Kenya did its part, but when it came to Uganda, we're still doing our things. You know, we take things slowly, pola as we hope for the best. So, but besides that, you know, when it comes to this is something very big that we cannot talk about in minutes, because now you've mentioned infrastructure. It's something very big. I told you that we've seen the construction that has been ongoing on to Kampala-Jinja Highway, and that's actually the very important road when it comes to trade in Uganda. It is the very important road because most of the goods are being transported using that very highway. So, and of late we've seen accidents occurring due to the poor construction, but construction is ongoing, but is on a slow pace. Of late, if I'm not mistaken, last week we're able to see the Minister of Work. He came out and addressed issues concerning the slow of the construction onto these roads. He mentioned very many roads, and Jinja Road was also part of them. That the highway was also part of them. That we saw, you know, they first felt like maybe they can do some. It wasn't construction, but they were trying to, you know, to put soil into those potholes to see that this business moves on. But later on, we saw that the government decided that they should redo the entire project, but later on work was paused because of money. So now when they're talking about smarter border reforms, it's not the only point. They should also focus on to the road networks that really that these people are using to bring in the goods in Uganda or into different parts of the world, because that Jinja Highway, it's really very important highway, because goods that are going to DRC, they pass there. Goods that are going to Rwanda, they pass there. Goods that are going to Southern Sudan, they pass there. So it's a call up, and also we urge the government to, at least as they are talking about the reforms, they should also mind about the infrastructure, mostly when it comes to the road construction in Uganda. But of late in Kampala, you know, you go here, they are doing some construction. So yeah.
Just like you said, the East African community's call for smarter border reforms isn't just about trucks crossing borders. It's about making trade cheaper within the East African community and creating jobs, lowering prices for consumers. And you know, in this particular it is always the consumer that is suffering. And strengthening East Africa as one competitive regional market. We do hope to see change and a lot of reforms when it comes to infrastructure, when it comes to internet, when it comes to a lot of things as they do work on the reforms. Dear viewer, do visit our social media platforms. Tell us what you think about this particular story. Visit our X account, that is TV1 Uganda, or you can save that particular number on the lower thirds and send us a WhatsApp message what you think about these particular stories that we be talking about. We are always here from 6:30 to 9 a.m. as we do unpack those particular stories that are going to get you start your day informed. If you haven't woken up, wake up. Let's take you through this particular day before you head out for work. At this particular time, we do take a short commercial break, which will be come back with more stories.
brings a new beginning and a new day. We bring you the news that matters when it matters. From international headlines to the stories shaping our communities at home.
Because where is my ocean? I'm entitled to that ocean.
With expert analysis, in-depth conversations, and deep dives into the issues behind the headlines, we don't just tell you the news, we break it down. Start your mornings informed, prepared, and ahead of the day. New day, clear news, real insight, a smarter start. Weekdays, 6:30 a.m. to 9 a.m. only on TV1.
The global value of coffee businesses currently is US$ 460 billion.
Behind every cup of coffee lies a story of hard work, heritage, and opportunity. Our coffee celebrates the farmers, communities, and traditions that make coffee more than just a drink. It's a livelihood and a legacy. Join us as we explore the value of coffee farming, the benefits it brings to families and communities, and the journey from fertile soil to your morning cup. Discover the knowledge, passion, and dedication that keep the coffee industry thriving. Because when coffee grows, communities grow too. Every Saturday, 10:30 p.m. only on TV1. Our coffee, brewing stories, growing futures. A clean environment begins with us. Go Green is the program dedicated to inspiring communities to protect nature, promote proper sanitation, and build a healthier, greener future for everyone. Discover practical ideas on waste management, environmental conservation, tree planting, and community sanitation. Because when we respect nature, nature sustains us in return. Let's work together to keep our surroundings clean, safe, and green for generations to come. Every Sunday, 3 p.m. only on TV1. Go Green. Small actions today for a greener tomorrow. Ready to find your dream home? Welcome to Property Time on TV1. Your ultimate guide to the best properties around town. Join us every week as we explore incredible properties, insider tips, and expert advice to help you make the right move. Whether you're buying, selling, or just dreaming, Property Time has got you covered. Don't miss out. Tune in to TV1 and let's make your property dreams come true. Property Time only on TV1. Are you ready to build real skills for a better future? Tune in to Skilling Uganda, the show that empowers, educates, and transforms lives. From hands-on vocational skills to expert guidance and real success stories, Skilling Uganda connects you to opportunities that matter. Every Monday to Friday, 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. Don't just stream it, skill it. Skilling Uganda, shaping Uganda's future, one skill at a time, only on TV1. See the difference.
Welcome back from that short commercial break. You're still watching New Day on TV1. See the difference. And now in health tips today, we do talk about Kaposi sarcoma or KS, and one may ask, what is Kaposi sarcoma? It is a type of cancer that develops from the cells lining blood vessels and lymphatic vessels. Now, it does cause abnormal growths or tumors that usually appear as purple red, brown, just like you can see on your screen, or dark blue patches or lumps on the skin, just like you can see on your screen. And it also affects the mouth, lymph nodes, and lungs, and the digestive system. Now, the disease is caused by infection with human herpes virus 8, that is HHV8, also known as Kaposi sarcoma associated herpes virus. And however, not everyone infected with HHV8 develops cancer. Now, KS is much more likely to occur in people with a weakened immune system, and we love to see who is actually at risk of getting this particular disease. People living with HIV/AIDS, especially if untreated, you're likely to get Kaposi sarcoma. And organ transplant recipients taking immune suppressive drugs, and then older men from Mediterranean or Eastern European backgrounds, some people in sub-Saharan Africa where HHV8 is more common, or Kaposi sarcoma is more common rather. What are the symptoms for this particular disease? We talked about purple red or brown skin lesions. Could imply that you have this disease, lesions inside the mouth, and swelling of the legs or feet due to blocked lymph vessels. Now, if the lungs are affected, cough, chest pain, or shortness of breath could also be one of the signs that you have this disease. If the digestive tract is affected, abdominal pain or bleeding, you might have abdominal pain or bleeding. Well, we love to look at how you can actually treat this particular one. Treatment depends on the severity and cause of the disease. It may include people with HIV, which can significantly improve or even shrink the tumors. Chemotherapy, radiation therapy, and surgery for small isolated lesions. Immunotherapy is selected in selected cases. We can also not fail to talk about how you can prevent this particular disease. Preventing and treating HIV with early testing and consistent ART is the most effective way to reduce the risk of AIDS-related Kaposi sarcoma. Now, people who have had organ transplants should follow their doctor's advice regarding medications. There is currently no vaccination or vaccine against HHV8, so the earlier you prevent it, the better. And when diagnosed early and treated appropriately, many people, especially those receiving effective HIV treatment, can achieve good outcomes and live many years. I don't know if you've heard about this particular disease. Actually, I wasn't aware that it is called that, but I've ever seen people with such symptoms, such body, with such spots onto their body. But then I wasn't aware that it is part of cancer. But after doing some reading, then that's when I realized that these are some of the types of cancer that you said it is a type of cancer that is it blood? Connected to the blood? Yeah, blood cells. Blood cells. So I wasn't aware about it until when I did some reading onto this very type of cancer. And I believe a viewer out there that had or had never knew something about this very type of cancer, today, this early morning, is aware about it. And being that you've been able to read us, to take us through the signs and symptoms and how they can be prevented, I believe someone, if at all it is on an early stage, he would go do some checkup for the better, being that you've mentioned also that it is treated. So I believe someone out there would be going in for a medical checkup to see how better he can improve his health for the better, and also to sit, so that he can be able to see tomorrow, or she can be able to see
tomorrow, just like me.
Now we laugh just like you.
Yes, I'll be able to say tomorrow.
Because you're informed about Kaposi Sakoma.
Of course.
There is a lot to do when it comes to awareness. I think most of the people don't know about this particular disease. I think in our health, in our subsequent health programs, we shall talk about this particular disease so that we can inform the people. Now, with today's HIV treatment, Kaposi Sakoma is no longer as common as it once was. I think that's why most of the people do not know about it. And early diagnosis significantly improves the survival. Dear viewer, we hope we do mind about your health. That is why we do bring these particular segments, so that you can get informed and how you can prevent particular diseases in in this particular segment. We do move on. What is happening between Iran and the US? Trump vows Iran will pay many times over for deadly attacks on US troops. Now, the president of the US, that is Donald Trump, has vowed that Iran will face severe consequences following deadly attacks targeting American troops and stationed in the Middle East. Now, we recently saw that the president came out and said every time Iran kills an American soldier, they will pay for that killing many times over. And this came after we got to see American soldiers, that is Gonzalez and Kehan. Is it Kehan? Who is 25 years, and yes, Gonzalez, who is 19 years, were killed. And Trump came out and made this statement that every time Iran kills an American soldier, they will pay for that killing many times over. Now, he said he had instructed senior military leaders, including Defense Secretary and Chairman of the Joint, and the Chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, and according to the US officials, the recent attacks killed American troops in Jordan and Iraq. The two soldiers that I've talked about were killed from Jordan, and raising the reported US death toll on the conflict to 17 service members. And the incidents prompted the United States to continue large-scale airstrikes against Iranian military targets. Now, Iran actually came out and denied he denied responsibility for some attacks while continuing missile and drone operations against the US and allied positions in the region. Now, the conflict has also expanded and to key shipping routes around the Strait of Hormuz, disrupting maritime traffic and increasing global concerns over oil supplies and regional stability. Now, despite Trump's warning, diplomatic efforts have not completely stopped. Several countries are reportedly trying to mediate a ceasefire, but fighting between the United States and Iran continues, making the risk of a wider regional war remain high. Will this end?
I don't think so. Why am I saying I don't think so? Because we also had the same issues when it came to the Russia-Ukraine war, the ceasefire that the peace deals that they had to conduct between onto different parts of the world. We saw that to the extent they were pushed to come to the African continent, when they were hosted in that is South Africa. So by the time the two governments, I've been telling you that the two governments, the US government and the Iranian government, do not want to accept that, do not want to accept the loss. US government cannot let the Iranian government take the win. You get the point? Same applies to the Iranian government. They do not want to allow the US government to take the win. They would wish to at least to be written in history that when the war was ongoing, Iran made the US government to surrender under the government of Donald Trump, which cannot be possible. You get the point? Because if you recall, Trump came up with a slogan when it was taking over office, that is making America great. We cannot fail to talk about being that one of the key points or the Constitution actually prioritizes and a citizen and the soldier of the US government is being considered more important than anything else. So by the time Trump comes out and informs the world that Iran will pay more than what they were supposed to pay after the attacks that they carried out onto
and killing their soldiers. Yes.
So, and we cannot fall out to accept to talk about the fact that the US government also via the attacks that have been able to carry out onto the Iranian soil, they have killed very many people, to the extent that we saw the Prime Minister of Iran came out and mentioned that why are the US government targeting human infrastructures and also places where human beings are, civilians that are not even involved into the fighting. So by the time the Prime Minister of Iran came out and talked about such things, such points, though the world did not mind about them, but at the moment Trump came out and vowed that Iran will pay more than what they are supposed to pay onto each and every attack that have done onto the US troops. So this and actually this made more noise than the people that have been killed by the US government. We cannot talk about the school that was attacked by a drone in Iran, and we saw the UN coming out to talk about that, saying that it is not really good. We cannot talk about the civilians that have been killed within this war. Have you had a US civilian that has been killed of late? No, but we've had people being killed, to the extent that the supreme leader of Iran was killed. So Trump coming out to say that Iran will pay, I feel like they should come up, they should go back to the drawing board. Let them do more of the peace talks, though we don't really know. That's why I told you at the first step that I do not believe in peace talks. And I remember onto the African continent, we have a president, head of state. He came out and said that democracy is not for the African people. If I told the people that are advocating for democracy, trust me, they are not participating, they are not practicing it. So do not believe that it will work onto the African continent. I believe it would have been better if at all they have handled this issue in the form of a diplomatic way through the peace talks that have been ongoing between the two heads of states, and I would have said that would have been able to bear fruits, but at the moment they cannot bear fruit because Trump came out and also urged the NATO and also the European Union to stand still in case of anything. That means they will be able to respond immediately. Regardless, we are able to see that the Chancellor of the German government, the German, came out and stated that US government did not give out clear observation behind the entire war, to the extent that after the attacks that have been ongoing, we've seen fuel prices escalating again. Yes. And this is actually this is really affecting the very many different parts of the world, because fuel prices, it
does matter globally.
Yes, we cannot fail to talk about the Strait of Hormuz, because each and every attack that happens, Iran will use the Strait of Hormuz, being that it is what they're using as a leverage to at least limit the attacks. And the more they close, trust me, the more fuel prices will go high, and the more commodities will go high. Same applies, the standards of living will be affected. At the moment, standards of living are being affected because there are certain people that cannot even afford to buy what to eat because of the fuel prices. So Trump saying that Iran will pay. They have already paid enough. No, we cannot fail to talk about that. They have really paid enough. And in my opinion, I believe it's high time. Let them go back onto the drawing board. Let them talk about all the reforms. Let them talk about the policies, because the US government came out with the 14 policies. And the Iranian government as well came up with points that were supposed to be, that were highlighted onto the US government, to the extent that last weekend we were able to see the Prime Minister of Israel he was on a visit in the US government, to the US government, and we saw the mayor of New York, a Ugandan born, that is, I don't know, do you know Mamdan? By the Indian guy who took over mayorship. He came out and said that with the moment Netanyahu steps into New York, he will arrest him and hand him over to the ICC, International Criminal Court. But later on, we saw people came out criticizing such. Why am I'm just giving that as a by the way, but it was also important. So he was on a visit in the US, and I believe the reason behind the visit was to see that the points that were being highlighted by the Iranian government are being put into consideration. And then we see, because they mentioned that Israel should stop the attacks onto Lebanon. And those are one of the points that were being highlighted So we believe that the meeting that they had over the weekend between the U.S. government and between Trump and Netanyahu, in my opinion, I believe that's the reason behind it, because we cannot fail to talk about that. Well, yes, a U.S. could be okay when it comes to fuel. They have the fuel from Venezuela, but still they're being affected because, trust me, Canada buys fuel on an expensive rate.
Yes.
So the products that are supposed to be taken to the U.S. tend to have that, the prices are being risen a bit high. So this is also affecting them indirectly. And I believe they wanted, or Trump wanted to have a conversation between Netanyahu and him to see that at least he stops the fighting. And we are here to see if at all those are some of the points that were being highlighted between the conversation that they had, or the visit that Netanyahu had in the US, in America. So, but when Trump votes that Iran will pay, in my opinion, I feel like they've really paid enough. So it's high time to let, I remember someone told me that sometimes you tend to be a fool, to let things go for your better. And none of the two people would wish to be a fool. And trust me, Trump can never be a fool. Reality.
We want to see the significance of Trump's statement, the statement that he came out and said when President, he said that Iran will pay many times over. He's signaling that the US is prepared to respond with much greater military force if
and they've been able to do that.
Yes, if American troops continue to be killed. Now, the warning followed one of the deadliest periods for US forces since the conflict began this year. Well, we do pose a question: does this mean the war could escalate? I don't know what you think, but
Yes.
military, yes, it is going to escalate. I do say yes. And military analysts say such statements reduce room for diplomacy.
Yes.
Because they publicly commit leaders to retaliation. They want to revenge. They want to retaliate. And if Iran responds again after the US strikes, the cycle of retaliation can continue, making a ceasefire harder to achieve. They're going to be in that process of retaliating and all that, and no one is willing to give up.
Do you believe that if at all someone comes up with a statement like that, sending it to you, how would you perceive the message behind it? Reality, how do you perceive it?
Of course, revenging.
Of course, if you are not revenging, then you just have to tighten your belt. Prepare. If at all you had kept something for yourself, you have to remove it at the moment. So we cannot. We have to accept. And by the way, Trump comes out with statements like that. If you recall, when the U.S. government was going to arrest Maduro, he came out jokingly that we shall be arresting Maduro in a few days from now. Just one night, information came out. We started seeing clips from the FBI showing how the entire operation was carried on to. So do not joke with Trump. He might say something jokingly, but he means it.
He means
you
it.
Get?
And most of the people actually take him for granted.
Yes.
He comes out and he makes statements in a joking manner.
In a joking, at some point, he tends to be sarcastic, but he means whatever he says. Jokingly, and sometimes he says things that you do not expect him to say. At a certain point, people thought maybe it could be a slip of a tongue, but he intends to say whatever that he's saying. So by the time he came out to tweet that and also to pass that information, trust me, in just a few days, that have passed, more people have been killed. And trust me, the Iranian government has been has been attacked. And when this information was passed by Trump, we saw different neighboring people, that the countries that share borders with Iran, came out and said, how about if the two people go back onto the drawing board? Can't they have the ceasefire talks again? Because they believe that maybe through diplomacy, that's when they will be able to come up with a solution onto the entire war that is ongoing. But you've also mentioned it in your submission that according to the point or the statement that was being passed out by Trump, it is closing room for diplomacy. Because trust me, you cannot call me to negotiate with you when you've warned me that I will have to pay more than what I was supposed to pay. You're leaving out your side that you also killed very many people, innocent people. Innocent lives have been killed. I mentioned earlier on that the Prime Minister of Iran had to come out and talk about the infrastructure. Talk about the civilians that have been killed. You get the point. People have been affected into this war, and the problem is we don't get that information as we get it from the US government. We do not access information from Iran, so we don't really know what's there. But according to what we get from Qatar, those countries that share border points with Iran, we see weapons flying over the skies. No, reality, we see weapons, we see missiles flying over the skies, and people tend to record this. So at a certain point, you feel like something is really happening in Iran, just that they limit their information to go into the global scene. So that statement, me as a person, I'm not surprised. I expect that, because I told you earlier on that how long did the Iraq-US war take?
It took a lot of time.
It took a lot of time.
Yes.
A very, very long time. When you talk about the US Vietnam War, it really took a lot of time. And trust me, each and every war that happens, there is among the two counterparts that are into that very war, one of them gains something. At the moment, the US government is gaining. You get, besides gaining, maybe because Trump came out and said that they have been stealing their oil as well. When war has been ongoing, they have been stealing their oil, to the extent that Trump had the audacity to come out and said, at the moment, the Strait of Hormuz is under our control. What does that imply? And later on, a few days back, we saw him saying that the Iranian government should come out openly and open the Strait of Hormuz for the better, to see that at least trade goes on normally. And very many questions come up when it comes to Trump. But what I can say is that people shouldn't take Trump for granted. He might say something jokingly, but he really means whatever he says. And if he says that we shall attack, when you think he's no longer minding that, he will attack. Trust me, he will attack. And out of the blue, after the attack, he will come and say, I told you that we shall attack. Didn't we attack?
And most of the people thought maybe he was joking earlier.
Yeah, same applies to this war. How it happened, just a blink of an eye, we start getting information that the US has attacked all the military bases of Iran. Later on we saw the Iranian government retaliating. They also had to fight back, attacking all military bases that are in Iraq, that are in the border points of Qatar. You get the point? So it is really, people shouldn't take this like a joke. And
I want to say, Regan, this particular conflict is not even all about the soldiers, because we had a 25-year-old Fihan was killed, and then Gonzalez, also a 19-year-old Gonzalez, lost his life, and Trump had to come out and make this statement. This particular conflict is not about soldiers and all that. It is also about one of the world's most important oil routes, that is the Strait of Hormuz. And if fighting spreads there, global oil prices could rise sharply. Although Uganda is actually away from 1,000 miles, I don't know, away, but
regardless of the 100 and a million miles that are away,
we are going to be affected. The oil prices are rising. It's crazy. It's crazy.
Yeah,
they are really rising so high. Dear viewer, do still visit our social media platforms. Tell us what you think about this particular conflict. Is it about the soldiers? Sorry?
Why are you smiling?
Because it's interesting how no one is about to give up. Do visit our social media platforms. Tell us what you think about this particular story, what you think about this particular topic. Get to our X account, that is TV1 Uganda. Tell us what you think, or visit our save our WhatsApp number. Send us your thought on this particular story. We do have a lot that we are supposed to unpack for you. You want to know what happened on the 23rd of July in history. We're going to be coming back with that after this short commercial break.
Every morning brings a new beginning and a new day. we bring you the news that matters when it matters. From international headlines to the stories shaping our communities at home.
Because where is my ocean? I'm entitled to that ocean.
With expert analysis, in-depth conversations, and deep dives into the issues behind the headlines, we don't just tell you the news, we break it down. Start your mornings informed, prepared, and ahead of the day. New day, clear news, real insight, a smarter start. Weekdays 6:30 a.m. to 9 a.m. only on TV1.
The global value of coffee businesses currently is US$ 460 billion.
Behind every cup of coffee lies a story of hard work, heritage, and opportunity. Our coffee celebrates the farmers, communities, and traditions that make coffee more than just a drink. It's a livelihood and a legacy. Join us as we explore the value of coffee farming, the benefits it brings to families and communities, and the journey from fertile soil to your morning cup. Discover the knowledge, passion, and dedication that keep the coffee industry thriving. Because when coffee grows, communities grow too. Every Saturday, 10:30 p.m. only on TV1. Our coffee, brewing stories, growing futures. A clean environment begins with us. Go Green is the program dedicated to inspiring communities to protect nature, promote proper sanitation, and build a healthier, greener future for everyone. Discover practical ideas on waste management, environmental conservation, tree planting, and community sanitation. Because when we respect nature, nature sustains us in return. Let's work together to keep our surroundings clean, safe, and green for generations to come. Every Sunday, 3 p.m. only on TV1. Go Green. Small actions today for a greener tomorrow. Ready to find your dream home? Welcome to Property Time on TV1. Your ultimate guide to the best properties around town. Join us every week as we explore incredible properties, insider tips, and expert advice to help you make the right move. Whether you're buying, selling, or just dreaming, Property Time has got you covered. Don't miss out. Tune in to TV1 and let's make your property dreams come true. Property Time only on TV1. Are you ready to build real skills for a better future? Tune in to Skilling Uganda, the show that empowers, educates, and transforms lives. From hands-on vocational skills to expert guidance and real success stories, Skilling Uganda connects you to opportunities that matter. Every Monday to Friday, 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. Don't just stream it, skill it. Skilling Uganda, shaping Uganda's future, one skill at a time, only on TV1. See the difference.
Welcome back from that short commercial break. You're still watching New Day on TV1. See the difference. Now, this is the segment where we talked about what happened on the 23rd of July in the history. Today, we're going to be talking about the Egyptian Revolution. It began on the 23rd of July, that is 1952, and a group of young Egyptian military officers known as the Free Officers Movement launched a bloodless coup that transformed Egypt's political future. Now, the movement was led by Gamal Abdel Nasser, with Mohammed Naguib serving as its public leader due to his senior rank and popularity. Now, at this time, Egypt was ruled by King Farouk the First, and his government faced widespread criticism over corruption, economic inequality, and its poor performance in the 1948 Arab-Israel War. Now, many Egyptians also resented the continued British military presence in the country, and despite Egypt's former independence. Now, in the early hours of 23rd July, the Free Officers seized key military installations and the government buildings in Cairo. Now, the operation also succeeded with very little bloodshed. Within days, King Farouk was forced to abdicate in favor of his infant son and leave Egypt for exile. We'll look at how important this is, and it ended centuries of monarchical rule in Egypt. And in 1953, Egypt was officially declared a republic. And Gamal Abdel Nasser eventually became the president and emerged as one of the most influential leaders in the Arab world. The revolution promoted Arab nationalism, land reform, and reduced the political influence across Africa and Middle East. One of the revolution's most significant consequences came in 1956 when Nasser nationalized the Suez Canal, triggering the Suez Canal involving Britain, France, and Israel. Although Egypt faced military attacks, international pressure pressed the invading forces to withdraw greatly, and this was boosting Nasser's prestige. The Egyptian Revolution of 1952 remains one of the most important political events in modern Eastern history, reshaping Egypt's government and influencing regional politics of decades. I love the fact that they eventually had to get independence. And Nasser actually became their first president right after.
Yeah, actually, we cannot fail to talk about the causes behind or the cause of this entire revelation, the corruption under King Farouk. We cannot fail to talk about that under his monarchy, the corruption was very, very much, to the extent that a couple of youths that decided at least to go and liberate the nation. I felt like it's not worth it. Under his monarchy, a couple of people were being favored than the rest, and a few of them had the money, and most of them did not have the money. Corruption. We cannot talk about the dominancy over the British dominancy that, regardless that they had obtained or they had got its independence, that was in 1922. Still, Britain controlled defense, foreign policies, and also the Suez Canal. And we know when you talk about the Suez Canal is like the Strait of Hormuz, just like how we've been able to talk about the Strait of Hormuz, how important it is, being that it provides 20% of the fuel that is onto the global market. So same applies to the Suez Canal. After getting independence, they felt like maybe they have the audacity and the potential to also decide and talk about the issues that concern Egypt. But later on, under the monarch of King Farouk, he did not mind about that as long as he had the money. So he felt like the rest he wouldn't mind. So that's when we saw we saw the British dominancy when it came to defense. They were in charge of defense of the country, which wasn't really good for a couple of individuals within Egypt. Later on, the foreign policy, they decided who is supposed to work with the policies that are supposed to govern and also rule onto the global scene. When it came also to that is the Suez Canal, they were in control of the Suez Canal. And this wasn't really good about the limited trade and also business to go on as it's supposed to be, because everything that concerned the Suez Canal actually were in their control. So these are some of the reasons to why we are able to see that the reason why we're able to see that at least the liberation had to come out by certain youths, as you've mentioned them. They decided at least it is high time we reballate our nation. We cannot fail to talk about the social unrest, such as inflation. You know, inflation was too much, food shortage. People had nothing to eat. As I told you that a couple of them had what to eat, but a majority of them did not have what to eat. So at a certain point, they felt like maybe this is not what they're supposed to get, and they felt like it's high time they involved. Before they rebalating the country, the riots kept on, happening all the time. Riots kept on happening because people lacked what to eat. People were being they weren't provided with security like how it was supposed to be, because the British monarchy actually was in control of defense. Of course, they would prioritize what belonged to them, and the issues concerning the local people of Egypt were really neglected. So at a certain point, people came out to strike. They would protest, burn things onto the streets. Come in large numbers onto the streets to speak, and also to send a message to the king by then, King Farouk. But though he wasn't that really concerned on issues concerning his subjects, so this felt like maybe it is enough, and a couple of individuals decided that it's high time we do more of the fighting to see that at least we reballate our country. We've mentioned about after when Egypt became a republic, one of the people that actually did more or were in charge of the revelation, that was Abdul, am I right? Yes, Muhammad. So he became the first president of Egypt, and this really paved way to the Egypt that we are seeing right now. Regardless, that they also had loopholes, but still at a certain point he pushed away, and a couple of individuals, they pushed away the British monarchy out. And also we saw that King Farouk was forced into exile, and he went to Italy. That's where he went and left his son in charge of the kingdom, but things did not turn out to be that really good as he expected them to be. And later on we saw that the monarchy was overthrown, and later on we see Egypt having its first president. And we're talking about that because it is actually the entire revelation started today. The plotting were done and action began today when these people, the youths, a few of them decided to go and fight the injustices that were being carried onto them by their own, for starters, the king, that's King Farouk, and also to fight the British dominance, issues concerning the people of Egypt. Yeah.
Well, that is all that we had for you in Today in History. You do not you do not have to have existed during then. We do bring history to you, and we do try to educate you on what happened in history. Today we've been talking about the Egyptian revolution that began on the 23rd of July 1952. Now we do move on to what is happening in China. We get to see that China marked the 150th anniversary of the founding of the Communist Party of China, that is the CPC, on 1st July 2026, with a major ceremony at the Green Hall at the people of Beijing. And the CPC was founded on the 1st of July 1921 and has grown from small revolutionary movement into the world's largest political party with more than 100 million members. Now, President Xi Jinping, who is also General Secretary of the CPC delivered the keynote speech, and he described the party's 105th year history as a magnificent epic, and called on members to remain united, strengthen discipline, and fight corruption, and continue building China in a modern socialist country. Now, he did say that the country faces both opportunities and challenges, including economic pressures and changing international environment. Now, we love to understand why this particular anniversary is very, very important. Most importantly, it celebrates China's transformation. One of the biggest stories is how China has changed. In 1921, China was poor, politically divided, and legally rural, weakened by foreign influence and internal conflicts. Now today, China is the world's second largest economy, a leader in manufacturing, we cannot fail to talk about that, and a global technology powerhouse, one of the world's strongest military powers. When we talk about technology, we cannot fail to talk about China. Now, the Communist Party presents the transformation as proof that its leadership has driven China's rise. Is it about power? Unlike other countries such as Uganda, the UK, and the United States, where different political parties compete for power, China is effectively a one-party state. I repeat that. It's effectively a one-party state. And
do you think it's, at a certain point, I feel like it's really good?
Yeah, it is good. That's why we're seeing the developments in China.
But at a certain point, it is not good.
Why?
Because do you know that Chinese do not, actually there's no party that opposes the government.
Yes, there isn't.
And if I'm not mistaken, the only opposition leader that they had was arrested. So how good is it?
The government is not kept in check.
Please go on. I will also come in.
We want to see that the Communist Party chooses the country's leaders and shapes economic policy and oversees national security, influences education and media, and sets long-term national priorities. Its decisions affect nearly every aspect life of China. Well, the government is actually supposed to be kept in check. Well, with China, it is not. President Xi Jinping's role, I'm sorry, I have to learn the language, and I'm learning it by force. And when discussing the anniversary, it's impossible to ignore President Xi Jinping, who is also General Secretary of the party. And under Xi, China has invested heavily in advanced technology and artificial intelligence. We cannot fail to recognize that. And the military modernization has accelerated. The Belt and Road Initiative has expanded China's global influence. And we get to see that there has been a stronger emphasis on party discipline and national security. And the anniversary has also the party's message of unity and continuity under the current leadership. We cannot fail to actually talk about, while the whole world pays attention, China isn't just important because of the size. It is one of the world's biggest trading nations, a major lender and investor in developing countries, and a leading manufacturer of when it comes to electronics, solar panels, and electric vehicles. And we've witnessed this even in Uganda. Chinese really are big on electronics, solar panels, and
Chinese are everywhere. You should say that. Chinese are everywhere.
In Uganda?
Everywhere.
And it is also a permanent member of the UN Security Council. When China's leadership sets a new priority, governments and businesses around the world actually do pay attention. And we love to relate this to Uganda. What does this really mean to Uganda? This is where we have to connect. This is where China is one of Uganda's largest development partners. When it comes to roads, we've seen most of the roads are actually constructed by companies, Chinese companies.
Entebbe Express Highway.
Yes.
Yes.
It's constructed by companies.
Kodrosi.
The bridges, when it comes to bridges.
Which bridge?
Jinja was constructed by.
It was designed by a Ugandan, a student of Chambogo University.
And constructed by?
Constructed by okay, the entire design and the construction, I think it was between the Ugandan government and also if I'm not mistaken, the Chinese, but most of everything, the architectural designs were designed by a Ugandan. I forgot his name. He was a lecturer to a certain friend of mine, and I knew I know him. Like I've ever seen him physically, but we're not that close. But I've ever seen him. So, but when it came to actually to the Entebbe Express Highway, the construction was done by the Chinese, and we saw that a certain amount was an agreement was reached between the Ugandan government and the Chinese, that they are supposed to the money that is being paid of late, it will go to the Chinese government, to the Chinese, and for a certain period of time later on, the road will be officially handed over to the Ugandan government. So yeah, so when you talk about, that's why I told you that Chinese are everywhere. And when they're celebrating 105 years of the Communist Party, it is really a plus for them, because we cannot fail to talk about what the Communist Party has really done for China. When you talk about they've really mentioned about actually under the Communist Party, we've seen that at the moment when you talk about prioritizing, it has really improved their standards of living for the Chinese.
Yes.
Of late, under the president, the current president of China, they have established very many initiatives that at least they find ways onto how they can at least fight poverty within China. We saw them doing construction of houses for local people. They have done, when you talk about infrastructure onto the global scene, you cannot fail to talk about China, because they have really done amazing things when it comes to infrastructure, architectural designs, things that we thought cannot be done. They have proved to the world that they can be done. When you talk about innovation and sciences, of late we're seeing most of the EV, Chinese EV, electronic vehicles have taken over the US electronic vehicles, and actually have dominated the globe at the moment because of the prices, and also being that they are they're affordable, easy to maintain than the rest of the electronic vehicles. And of late we've seen, we cannot fail to talk about that actually China does more business than any other country. Though it is not the Chinese yen that is being used onto the global as a global currency, it is the US dollar. But we cannot fail to talk about that. It is very hard to see a Ugandan saying that I'm going to the US to do shipments, to do trade. But you'll say Ugandan saying that I'm going to China to buy things and then come back and sell. So it is really good. That they've also, under the Communist Party, as they were celebrating 105 years, 150th anniversary, you cannot fail to talk about the industrialization. China is one of the countries that actually are more industrialized, and we've been able to see what's
big on industrial training.
Thank you so much. We've been able to see what comes out of the industries. Regardless, it could be one of the most populated countries into this world, because that's why I told you that everywhere you will find the Chinese.
In every country?
In every corner of the world, you will find the Chinese. Even where you do not expect them to be, you will find their Chinese. So they have really, under the Communist Party, they have really done so well. You cannot fail to talk about peace within they've created peace between different countries. You've never seen China participating into war, or for example, siding with those that are in war, for example. Yes, they talk, but sometimes they do not intervene. They usually keep quiet. As I told you, the ongoing war between Israel and the US, same applies to the US and Venezuela. Venezuela was a very big counterpart of China, to the extent that even the president, the Venezuelan president, was using a phone from China, a personal phone that was given to him by the president of China. So we expected him to intervene in issues concerning Venezuela and China, but they kept their distance. We expected them to intervene in issues concerning the Russia-Ukraine war, because many of the countries, NATO, European countries, decided with Ukraine, but and Russia stood with China, and we expected China to give their support, maybe to send in soldiers to fight with Russia, but they did not do that. So they are focusing more on taking over. Why am I saying taking over? We cannot fail to talk about technology. They've been able to showcase military weapons, or newly developed weapons that can be, when someone gets to hear about it, and you be like, if it is China to attack, of course we cannot survive. They've been able to showcase that. They have been able to create relations. You cannot, of late, actually, China has dominated the African continent.
Yes.
When it comes to infrastructure, it has really done the construction. You cannot fail to talk about the roads that have been constructed by the Chinese in Uganda, in Kenya, in Tanzania, in South Africa, in Nigeria, in Botswana. You cannot fail to talk about the loans. I remember when the Africa-France summit was happening in Kenya a month back. Most of the heads of states came out and said that the Western countries should mind about the policies that they give to the African countries when they're trying to get loans from them. They should mind about the policies. It is a long process sometimes. But when it comes to China, when an African country wants to get a loan from them, it is an easy process. There are no process. Okay, processes are there, but they do not, do more of the paperwork.
They give you hard time.
Yes. So they do not do that, but they give them money, and that's why of late most of the African countries are shifting from the US, from the UK, going to China, because China makes things easier for them. And we cannot fail to accept that most of the minerals that are being used into the industries in China are actually onto the African continent. So why? They have to prioritize the African continent, give them what they want. And this has been happening under the Communist Party. They knew where to, I remember someone told me that position yourself. So China positioned itself because they knew Africa, what they need. They need guns. They need money to do construction. They need construction. What do they need? They need industries. So Chinese will go there, give them money, and the government will give them land. They will give them.
Identify the problem.
Yeah. So they really they position themselves at the moment. You cannot fail to talk about the innovation that are happening in China that have taken over the globe. I remember when the AI they developed something, it was called DeepSync, an AI future, and it took over the rest of the Geminis. It's really an AI. Yes. So it took over all of them, and we saw social media platforms that have been created by Chinese, the TikTok. It has really dominated the entire globe to the extent that we saw that the US government had to come out and say that the TikTok should not be allowed in the US because the Chinese government is using it to spy onto the citizens. So why am I giving that as an example? I'm trying to give a broader picture to a viewer out there that as they're celebrating 150th anniversary of the Communist Party, the Communist Party has been in existence since because it was formed in 1921. Yes. That's when it was formed, and it has by 2025 it had 101 million members.
It started with actually 50 members. 50,
and actually it played a very big role to the China that we are seeing right now. It is the effort of the 51. It is the effort of the 51 members that actually made China a republic. And that's when they fought the imperialism. The 51 that formed the
50 members.
Yes, the 50 that formed the Communist Party. They fought the imperialism. They fought the injustices. They fought very many things that were happening in China by then, to the extent that we are seeing the China that we are seeing right now. They paved the way for the better, because we've literally talked about how it has been able to, position itself. At the moment, China is in control of the entire Asia. When China says something, no one will say anything. Whenever it does any military drill, very many countries, the neighboring countries, are on tension. They come out and say they are targeting us, but they are showcasing where they are from where they were by then. So of course a wise person would say that I wouldn't wish to tamper with China at the moment. So the Communist Party really did so well, and we've seen that under the Communist Party they've been able to strengthen ties with different countries. For example, Uganda, we have actually good ties with China. That's why we see that among the countries that are visa free to go to China, Uganda is one of them. We can go do business. Yes. We can go from Uganda, then you go to China, you do business, and of that Ugandans have really found interest in going to China. And a friend of mine told me that it is hard to get a job in China because people are very many, and people are working. It's not like
it's industrial based.
Yeah, it's not like you go to the UK because people are very old. You're youth, you cannot get a job. But in China, even if someone is old, people still work. So. But besides that, it has really done so well when it comes to global trade. People do business not only in Uganda, and it has really, really taken over the African continent. So, yeah.
From 50 members in a meeting in Shanghai in 1921
yes.
to 101
million
people. The ruling party does celebrate 105 years. We do congratulate China. We do take a short commercial break. We're coming back with more stories.
Don't miss on TV1. Are you ready to take charge of your future?
I told you I'm one of the best performing prime ministers.
Parliament is not a stationary building.
Welcome to Know Your Government on TV1.
New spirit of fighting corruption.
The show that breaks down how government works and how you can make a difference.
Please don't get excited.
You must keep pace.
From local councils to the State House, we'll show you how decisions are made. Join us every week as we demystify politics and empower you to be an active citizen. Tune in to Know Your Government, only on TV1. Every morning brings a new beginning and a new day. We bring you the news that matters when it matters. From international headlines to the stories shaping our communities at home.
Because where is my ocean? I'm entitled to that ocean.
With expert analysis, in-depth conversations, and deep dives into the issues behind the headlines, we don't just tell you the news, we break it down. Start your mornings informed, prepared, and ahead of the day. New day, clear news, real insight, a smarter start. Weekdays 6:30 a.m. to 9 a.m. only on TV1.
The global value of coffee businesses currently is US$ 460 billion.
Behind every cup of coffee lies a story of hard work, heritage, and opportunity. Our coffee celebrates the farmers, communities, and traditions that make coffee more than just a drink. It's a livelihood and a legacy. Join us as we explore the value of coffee farming, the benefits it brings to families and communities, and the journey from fertile soil to your morning cup. Discover the knowledge, passion, and dedication that keep the coffee industry thriving. Because when coffee grows, communities grow too. Every Saturday, 10:30 p.m. only on TV1. Our Coffee. Brewing stories, growing futures. A clean environment begins with us. Go Green is the program dedicated to inspiring communities to protect nature, promote proper sanitation, and build a healthier, greener future for everyone. Discover practical ideas on waste management, environmental conservation, tree planting, and community sanitation. Because when we respect nature, nature sustains us in return. Let's work together to keep our surroundings clean, safe, and green for generations to come. Every Sunday, 3 p.m. only on TV1. Go Green. Small actions today for a greener tomorrow. Ready to find your dream home? Welcome to Property Time on TV1, your ultimate guide to the best properties around town. Join us every week as we explore incredible properties, insider tips, and expert advice to help you make the right move. Whether you're buying, selling, or just dreaming, Property Time has got you covered. Don't miss out. Tune in to TV1 and let's make your property dreams come true. Property Time only on TV1. Are you ready to build real skills for a better future? Tune in to Skilling Uganda, the show that empowers, educates, and transforms lives. From hands-on vocational skills to expert guidance and real success stories, Skilling Uganda connects you to opportunities that matter. Every Monday to Friday, 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. Don't just stream it, skill it. Skilling Uganda.
Welcome back from that short commercial break. You're still watching New Day on TV1. See the difference. Thank you so much for keeping it locked. Do not touch that dial. Now, it is at that particular time we talk about my favorite segment where we get to put your pride a little bit high about Africa, the beautiful sceneries in Africa.
Above the sea level.
Yes, yeah. The cultures in Africa. And today we're going to be talking about Agaseke baskets of Rwanda. Now, the Agaseke is one of Rwanda's most recognizable cultural symbols. These hand-woven baskets are traditionally made from sisal fibers and natural grasses with intricate geometric patterns in colors such as cream, black, and brown. Now, historically, Agaseke baskets were used to store food and food grain, gifts, and valuables. Over time, they became known as the Peace Basket after the 1994 Rwandan genocide against the Tutsi. The baskets came to symbolize reconciliation, unity, and hope as women from different communities worked together to weave them. Just like you see on your screen, women are seated together and today, Agaseke baskets are exported around the world, around the world, and are an important source of income, for many Rwandan women through community cooperatives. Well, why are they actually unique? Entirely handmade. They are entirely handmade, just like you see the women are with the agaseke baskets, and they use different weaving techniques, and they can take several days or weeks to complete depending on the design. And this actually makes them unique because they spend quite some good time on them coming up with different designs. They're recognized internationally as a symbol of Rwandan craftsmanship, and promote women's economic empowerment and preserve cultural heritage. Now, agaseke shows how traditional African crafts can preserve culture while also creating employment and attracting global markets. I've seen so many tourists that come in Africa, and they really fascinate such baskets. And they should actually embrace embrace our culture. Agaseke is actually an important source of income for thousands of Rwandan and artisans, especially women. The baskets do come in very many shapes, just like you see on your screens, and sizes, with the most recognizable being the peace basket, which has a pointed lid. Just like you saw previously, the lady was holding it. Its detailed designs reflect Rwanda's rich culture heritage and the remarkable skills of those weavers, those women. The basket that I'm talking about with the sharp weave is that very basket, the big one behind the lady that you see on your screens. And the agaseke basket is a powerful symbol of how traditional craftsmanship can preserve the culture, support local communities, and contribute to the national unity. Would you love to have one?
Well, I have one. I have one.
That sounds like a lie, Regan, please.
You know.
I think viewers should see you how you're pleading.
I'm not pleading.
To show me that you're lying.
Do you have one?
I don't have one, but
I think you should get one, because actually what really caught my attention was that very big basket that has a what?
A sharp lid.
A sharp lid.
Yes.
It was a symbol of peace. I think maybe that's one of the tools that were used by then after the genocide, when they would, for example,
They dried the colored threads.
Yes, they dry them, then they do the weaving.
Oh wow.
Yes, and we do that in Uganda.
I think we have similar baskets.
But for I think for those that come from the West, they have those with their sharp. Sharp what? Sharp.
The sharp lid.
The sharp lid. And for those that are in the central, we have. You look at that wall. I think we have those ones. But they all do the same thing. So
you can see the different designs, and I think if you visited African homes, the ones behind on the wall, most of the African homes actually put them on the wall in their houses or sitting rooms, or even African hotels. I don't know if you've seen that.
Most of the hotels put them onto their wall. So it's art, craft, and it's beauty. Well, it's one of at least one of the few things that identify our culture, that symbolizes our culture. And also besides that, besides culture, source of income, as you've just mentioned, that at least things that have really changed. At least ladies can go do the weaving and sell. Because these are some of the tourist things that usually take attention of these people that usually come in toward the African continent. Well, I would say that we have very many things in common in Africa. We have those things in Uganda. They're also in Rwanda, so that makes us brothers and sisters. Yes, but you should get one. Yeah.
Do you have one?
Yeah, I have one for food. For food.
So you eat kalo. You eat kalo?
Yeah, I do, but not that much. But
who made you love kalo?
It's a long story. My ancestors.
I thought you were gonna say my wife. Well, that is all that we had for you. that is all that we did have for you in only in Africa. Just like I said earlier on, we do try to put your pride a little bit higher about Africa as we talk about the beautiful sceneries in Africa, the animals, the rivers, everything Africa.
The culture, the dressing code,
yes, the dressing code,
traditional weddings, the languages. We should do as you have very many languages onto the African continent.
How many African languages do you speak?
Luganda, English. Yes.
African languages.
Of course, we own it now.
Okay.
It is all over the continent. And a couple of them, though. Oh, of late I've been learning Kumam. Yeah.
How do they greet?
I will tell you. I've been learning Kumam. I've been also learning, how do the people that come from Lila, how are they called?
I don't know.
Sorry, I forgot. So I've been learning Kumam, and do you know that there's a tribe called Kumam in Uganda? Have you ever heard of it?
I've heard about it.
Yeah, so that's what I remember. So I've been learning Kumam and some other languages as
Are
well.
they called the Langis? And I don't know that.
No. I've just forgotten, but it's a tribe. When I'll tell you when I remember, of course. But I've been able to at least to associate with a couple of them. I've been able to go to school with a couple of Chukuyus, with a couple of Masais. So at least I would say I've been able to get experience. I used to learn Sudanese, Dinka, but I don't remember. I went to school
I
with a
think I
couple
speak
of them.
quite a good number of African languages.
Well, like how many?
I'll tell you later on. We do get to unpack some of the stories that we do have for you. Our time is fast spent, but we'd love to unpack more stories. Now, we do talk about the Strait of Hormuz remains at the center of the conflict between the United States and Iran. And the Iranian officials have said that the strait will remain closed for as long as the U.S. military attacks continue, describing the measure of a response to American airstrikes on the Iranian military and infrastructure targets. And we earlier talked about it, that this conflict is not going to stop. True. At any one point. True. As long as all of them are still having the pride, it is not going to stop. Now, we love to understand, to explain this in this way. This is no longer just a military standoff between the United States and Iran. It has become an economic battle that could affect millions of people worldwide, not only in Iran and the US. Now, why is the Strait of Hormuz actually very important? Before the crisis, along 1/5 of the world's oil moved through this narrow waterway. Now, major oil exporters such as Saudi Arabia, Iraq, Kuwait, and the UAE and Qatar rely on it to reach international markets. This is actually, it pays, a lot of people should actually pay attention. And we actually earlier on say that although Uganda is actually miles away, it is affected. That's why we are seeing that oil prices are being hiked or are even high. Why is Iran keeping it closed? As long as the United States continue attacking, that is what Iran is saying. As long as the United States continues attacking them, they will continue restricting the strategic waterway because they do have control over it. And the closure is meant to increase pressure on Washington by affecting the global economy, not just the battlefield. Why should actually Uganda care? I love to say that higher global oil prices, just like I mentioned, can eventually lead to higher fuel prices locally, and transport becomes more expensive, and the wananchi will have to suffer. And food prices may also increase because transport costs get to rise, and airlines may face higher fuel costs, making travel more expensive. Now, a conflict thousands of kilometers away can therefore affect everyday life in Uganda. Could this become a global crisis? I want to say yes. Many analysts warn that if the Strait of Hormuz remains closed, we've talked about very many things that we're going to be affected into. That is the oil prices, inflation could also increase in many countries, and many more. And why does the US? There are a lot of questions about this particular story, and we want to see why does the US simply reopen? Why doesn't the US simply reopen it? It's not that simple. Iran is geographically positioned along the northern side of the strait and has missiles, drones, naval forces, and sea mines that can threaten shipping. Reopening the route by force could require a larger military campaign and carry significant risks of wider escalation. This is not going to stop, just like we mentioned. It's not going to stop.
It will not.
And when we look at it in a geographical angle, Iran understands that it may not match the United States militarily, but by disrupting one of the world's most important energy routes, it is gaining significant leverage over the global economy. And I want to say that is why the US is actually involved.
We shouldn't forget about the 20% that of the fuel onto the global market comes from this, or passes through the Strait of Hormuz. And we cannot fail to accept the fact that the Middle East countries actually provide more oil onto the global market, and most of the fuel that we get or we see actually comes from there. So I told you earlier on that Iran is also using the Strait of Hormuz as a privilege for itself. You know, it's what they can hold on to for at least to stop the fighting, to also that they can also have a point of negotiation, because we cannot fail to talk about that most of the countries are being affected by the fuel prices that have risen high. We cannot fail to talk about the inflation of our goods, and America may not be affected, but it is affected indirectly, because trust me, the fuel that is being when it wants to do a trade with the rest of the countries, for example, Mexico, it shares a border with Mexico. Same applies to Canada, and also the Latin American countries. They are affected by the fuel prices. So if they are to export goods, of course, due to fuel prices, goods will tend to be that to have that. That they will tend to rise a bit higher, because they will also have to because of the oil prices. So it is affected indirectly. By the time a product is being exported to the US, of course, there is an increment of a certain price onto it, and the people are the one facing it rough. So by the Strait of Hormuz remaining closed, it is affecting the entire global economy, and we cannot fail to accept that one of the two countries has to accept to be a fool, whereby no one is willing to be a fool. So either way you suffer. But we always come up with an alternative. But trust me, a few months from now, you will see that there's another alternative. These people will continue fighting, and more alternatives will just, will just come through, and until when they get tired. But we don't really know, and I don't believe that, just like how I was able to submit earlier on, that the two countries, I don't feel like they will be able to surrender, because the US will not want to lose it all. It has been regarded and considered as the superpower for a period of time. Same applies to Iran. Iran has been, one of the biggest and also the powerful countries within onto the Asian continent. So they do not want to surrender. Neither would they wish to be called cowards that they surrendered to the US government, but at least they would wish to have that. To have that point written in the books of history that they forced the US government to accept and surrender. I told you Trump came in with a slogan that is making America great. And how is he making America great? They cannot surrender. They cannot allow to be overthrown by Iran. And because for them they have the fuel that comes from Venezuela, to the extent that actually they are selling it at the moment. They are in charge of selling it, so they took over the Venezuelan oil. So it is not being affected that much, but it is affected indirectly. We cannot fail to accept the fact that it is. Either way, they go back to the drawing board, because after all, the people are the ones suffering. And how many numbers of soldiers, how many numbers of US soldiers are supposed to be killed for the two governments to accept that onto the side of the US government, soldiers have been killed. Onto the side of the Iranian government, civilian infrastructures have been demolished. So how about we agree? Let's agree for the better. We come up with points that at least will be able to facilitate the entire ceasefire or peace deal. Let them sign the agreement, because we've seen agreements being signed, and because after all, they have an agreement with the US that the Iran is not supposed to process any nuclear weapon, though US keeps on claiming that Iran has kept on processing nuclear weapon. Iran says we do not process a nuclear weapon, but instead we use nuclear as energy to to provide energy to the entire country. So they're still there and here and there. So how about they go back and they renew those agreements for the better, because we cannot fail to accept that all people, the civilians in Iran, are being affected. the people in US are also being affected at a certain point, and then the way to go is through doing diplomacy talks and diplomacy ways. That's to say, talks, and yes, let them accept. One of them has to be a full.
Well, can diplomacy actually curb this? Give us what you think. And the Strait of Hormuz actually remains one of the world's most strategically important waterways, and any prolonged disruption has consequences far beyond the Middle East. Do visit our social media platforms. Tell us what you think about this particular story. TV1 Uganda, tell us what you think. On X, keep the conversation live. Or you can save our particular number on the lower thirds, that is 070-087-1906. Give us your thoughts on this particular story. Tell us what you think about this particular story. Keep that conversation live. We do move on to what we have for you in science and technology. We always say that technology has advanced well. Have you embraced it? The earlier the better. Technology is the plan for tomorrow, and we do advise you to acknowledge it, to embrace it. However much you are having or venturing into different professions, be it a lawyer, be it a doctor, you do need technology in your professions. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Science and Technology. Well, today in Science and Technology, we do talk about Boston Dynamics dancing robots. Have you heard about that? This is one of the most talked about developments in robotics, and is continued advancement in Boston Dynamics humanoid and robots, which have become famous for performing and dancing routines. Now, while the videos often entertain millions online, the dancing is not simply for show. It demonstrates remarkable advances in robotics engineering. Now, we want to look at what makes the robots impressive. Robots use artificial intelligence to interpret movement, just like you see on your screen, and advanced sensors to maintain balance, high precision electric auto actuators that mimic human joints, just like you see what the robot is doing on your screen, and machine learning algorithms that improve movement over time. Now, the ability to dance requires extremely accurate coordination, timing, and balance skills that are also essential for practical tasks in the warehouses, construction sites, disaster response, and industrial inspections. Now, what are some of the real-world applications? Boston Dynamics robots are already being tested or used for industrial inspections, mapping dangerous environments, search and rescue operations, warehouse logistics, infrastructure monitoring, research in automation mobility. We want to look at why this in particular matters. The technology behind these robots could eventually assist humans in hazardous environments, reducing workplace injuries and improving productivity. I wish we can have one here. However, experts continue to debate the ethical implications of automation, including its impact on jobs and the need for responsible AI governance. Now, a robot that can dance smoothly is demonstrating the same balance, coordination, and the real-time decision-making abilities that could actually allow it to climb stairs, recover from sleeps, carry equipment, or even navigate disaster zones, making the dance a showcase of sophisticated engineering rather than simple entertainment. Have you seen this anywhere in Uganda?
Not really, but I've ever seen a couple of them in Nairobi, a certain hotel. They work as waitresses and waiters, and you can as well do the bookings onto them. So I've ever seen, but they're not dancing, but they're doing something similar to that. But for them, they actually, it's called the Robotic Hotel in Nairobi. So you could go there. That's when actually a robot will come and serve you a meal. You press your order, then a robot will come and then place, bring the meal to you. So we have something like that, but we believe we'll be able to witness and get to see more innovation that well, I believe also the government of Uganda is, have you ever visited the Science Hub in Nakawa? I think such things are being talked about, drone, until we have the drone sketches that are on board. I think we should visit it one day. We should spare some day and then we pass through the Science Hub Nakawa. It's really good. We should see very many good innovations there. You've never? Oh my. But we shall. I believe the kids are working tirelessly.
Well, that is all that we had for you in Science and Technology. We'd love to thank you. I don't know if you have any words for the viewers before we can.
Well, I would just want to appreciate them to keep it locked in from 6:30 a.m. to 9 a.m. And I urge them to please, if at all there's anyone would wish to work with TV1, please come on board. We are located at Plot 1B, Chira Road, Kalamu building. That's where you will be able to find our offices, bring in the business, and we have the potential to put that business to the public. So you should trust us, and I believe we can as well grow together, you and also TV1, being that it is one of the actually one of the fastest growing media companies in Uganda at the moment. And as our tagline says, that to see the difference when it comes to our programming, we've really brought the difference into the way things are being done into that is the visual televisual communication waves. Yeah.
We do thank you for being with us from where we started from. Thank you so much for keeping locked from where we started from 6:30 to this particular hour. Thank you for choosing to start your day with us. We are always here from 6:30 to 9 a.m. as we do unpack those particular stories that are making rounds internationally, nationally, in the business sector, in the health sector, and in the sports fraternity. Thank you so much for being with us. From I and the crew, it's a wrap-up. Do stay tuned for other programs that are coming up. From I and the crew, it is a wrap-up. It is a new day on TV1. See the difference.